ignore me, fire me but still give me access to your filing system? This revenge happened 25 plus years ago. Just as some background. In my country and specific to my state, there is a state-legislated cottage industry around property settlements. In most places the property settlements after the buying or selling of a house were conducted by lawyers. No, so my state. The law allowed people employed by someone licensed and experienced in conducting such settlements to act as the intermediary. They would arrange the settlement of the property and the legwork that went with it. I was working in the government for department that administered all property-related details and was the records department for all land titles and land documents. As such, I dealt with settlement agents and their settlement clerks all the time. I was young and friendly, and as were they. I got on great with them. It was good times. I was 23-24 and had been there 6-7 years. I was now settled down and engaged to be married and wanted to take a new step where I could make a new impression and not still be seen as that wet behind the ears 17-year-old kid I was when I joined. I wanted to stretch my wings. It was very competitive cracking into the settlements clerk gig, and you had to know someone. I thought it would be a great springboard from what I was doing. I was well liked by all the regulars, and a man that used to come in regularly, who we all called Big Red, was the owner of a small well-respected settlement agency. He was a nice bloke with a big bushy beard and happy and friendly. I told him my intentions, and he told me if ever I was after a job to talk to him first and he would look after me. He knew everyone. My department had a massive downsizing, and rather than firing, they asked applications to be put in for anyone wishing to get a redundancy. I talked with my fiancée and she thought it made sense, and I had a month to find another job. The stars aligned perfectly. I got the redundancy and a start date, and Big Red's own firm as his own settlement clerk got a job as a real estate agent. I then used the money of the redundancy as a deposit on a new house. Came in the first day and Big Red was in a panic. Everyone was. His business mainly specialized in straight titles, apartments, units, townhouses and the like, rather than single-dwelling properties, and a recent change in the act that governed this caught everyone off guard, and they had to immediately make sure everything they did for all applicable settlements were compliant with the new rules. I was plunked down in front of a computer, shown the diary system and the corresponding filing system, and told to look at and through it to get an idea and not to bother anyone. It got old really quickly and it was more than a little disconcerting, but still I did what I was told and got intimate with the files of each and who was who and what was the next step on each account and how much each customer was worth and such. A couple of days passed, then on the Wednesday my boss, Big Red, invites me to lunch. I go. He was still friendly and insisted on paying for lunch. He explained he was really sorry but things were a little crazy and they did not have time to teach or train me. Peter, the guy I was replacing, was staying after promise of increased pay and he was sorry about that. I could choose to leave now or could stay until Friday, and he would pay me up to Friday regardless. I asked him what I was supposed to do. He suggested I get my old job back and I told him that position was completely gone. He shrugged. I was livid. I almost left there and then. I was embarrassed and humiliated going back and sitting there being ignored for the last 2 days, but it was not without intent this time. I knew every customer intimately and every file and knew the manual and electronic filing systems. 2 days, 16 hours, to change the landscape of their business. The scheduling and contents to so many were changed. A few pages from one file went into another here and there. Misfile here, a misfile there, a reschedule here, a reschedule there. Their upcoming settlements were going to be interesting. I left on the Friday with my 1 week's pay and a sense of dread for the future, but at least did not let on what I did. A couple of weeks later I started a new job. I ran into one of the settlement clerks around town a few months later and had a bit of a catch-up. I had told them of my new job and how I led the department with a redundancy and had a new home that I was excited about. Did not mention Big Red, and so it was not preempted that my friend bought him up. He said, "Oh, by the way, do you remember Big Red?" I was cagey and admitted I did. He let me know that they had some huge problems with some of their settlements and screwed up a number of them. He was short on exact details, but that it really impacted on their reputation in the industry to the point that he closed down, retired, and he and his wife moved up north. The guy said shame. He was a nice bloke. I agreed with him that it was a shame. Mentally I high-fived myself. I was still raw a month later, and that was great closure.
Error in title should read as cancel my leave. Say goodbye to your promotion ruffle. I used to work in a disability shared accommodation agency. It's a job where you support 4 to 6 people with disabilities who share the accommodation. It's shift work, 2 clients per staff member during the day, 1 staff member on a sleepover at night. The rosters are 4-week rotating rosters. I was employed as a 0.75, meaning I work 75% of what is considered full-time, equating to 57 hours a fortnight. Working shifts sucked, but the pay was good. I was working in a house I'll call Sunup. Sunup had 4 residents and 7 workers. Each house had a house supervisor. They reported to the cluster manager, who managed 6 houses. Cluster managers reports to the show. By company policy, leave requests are first and best dressed, meaning you need to put your leave in early to ensure you get it. I was transferred to Sunup from a 6-client house due to my qualifications and situations I cannot legally disclose. I worked for the first year, got to know staff, clients, house supervisor, etc. There was an obvious clique between 4 staff members. Each school holidays, 3 would apply for leave, and 1 would call in sick with a medical certificate covering the same amount of time. They would always rotate who was sick to hide what they were up to. They were friends outside of work who would party together. After a year, the house supervisor fell sick. One of the clique members, Karen, was appointed acting supervisor, and it went to hell. She tried reducing my hours and giving extra time to a friend. I pointed out that I'm contracted for 57 hours a fortnight, so I'm getting paid for 57 hours a fortnight. Her friends got extra shifts. We're given the best shifts, and we're all around favored by Karen. In January, I put in leave for March school holidays. Karen rejected on the grounds that others had already submitted leave. Her clique all applied for this time. I left this alone. In March, I checked the leave calendar for the June school holidays. Each house had a leave calendar, so management and staff can check who scheduled leave is. It was empty. I submitted leave again, and it was rejected. Karen said, "Sorry, you were too slow." Karen said that a BANDC clique already submitted leave. The next day the leave calendar showed this. In May I checked Xmas leave calendar, put in my leave, and sure enough, got the same result. This annoyed me, as I have a family that I wanted to take on holiday. I spoke to the cluster manager, also a part of the clique, who said there's nothing I can do. Note, I had no leave taken in 2 years. January the following year, the clique was on holiday. We had a gastro outbreak across our facilities, so we were short-staffed. All available staff, including show, were covering shifts. I was rostered on with the show 1 shift. During the shift he said to me, "You have a bit of leave accumulated. You should probably take some." I put in 3 requests last year. All were rejected as others apparently already applied for those dates. Show, let's lock in your leave now. Me, okay, how about 4 weeks over Xmas? I filled out the form. Show signed it off. He filled out the leave calendar and put my application in Karen's pigeonhole. I was on sleepover that night, so I took my application, photocopied it for myself, and replaced under the mountain of paperwork in her pigeonhole, knowing she wouldn't see it for a few months. In March I checked the leave calendar. I noticed my Xmas leave disappeared, replaced with Karen, A, B, and C. I didn't say anything as I had a leave form with show's signature. Fast forward October, original house supervisor passed away. Acting supervisor was appointed permanent supervisor by the cluster manager, with a mandatory 3-month probation. December comes around, first week of my leave, I get a call from Karen. Where are you? Me, on leave. Karen, I didn't approve any leave, get your ass to work now. I come in, Karen chews me out stating she didn't get an application form. Karen went on to say even if you submitted it I would reject it, as you should know by now that we always take 2 weeks in December, January. She wrote me up for insubordination. I worked that shift. When Karen left I emailed the show filling him in on what happened. He called a meeting, me and Karen. Show what happened. Karen cutting me off up took it upon himself to approve leave. I wrote him up for skipping work. Me, actually I submitted leave in January, while you were away. Karen, no you didn't. Show, yes he did. I approved it, and added it to the leave calendar. Karen, we already had 4 staff booked on leave. Show me the leave forms. Karen, I destroyed them. Me handing Karen my copy of my form signed by the show. Up is on leave. I'm going to sun up and I'm investigating the situation. Up, my apologies, go home. I'm extending your leave by an extra week. I go home. I come in 4.5 weeks later to be told that Karen has lost her promotion. She is thin ice. Show found out that Karen has been rejecting leave requests. She shredded my request without looking past the date. She deleted my leave from the calendar. The show told Karen that this borders on fraud. The show also separated the clique to different houses. He changed the leave policy to state that he must sign off leave requests. In addition to house supervisor and cluster managers, he ensured that all staff had access to prime leave dates. Karen was fired 2 weeks later for failing audit requirements. Edit. To clarify why the show did grunt work, funding bodies stipulated that during day 1 staff was required for every 2 clients. We were short-staffed across the board. There was lots of juggling staff. All staff employed with the company not on leave were working in houses, including show, cluster managers, administration. They were rostered on with qualified staff, who took the lead. Show had social worker qualifications, social work experience, but no support worker experience. It was an extreme situation that could see funding withdrawn. The reason why he extended my leave by a week is because this incident took place on the Monday. Show meeting took place on Wednesday or Thursday, can't remember exactly. As I worked Monday and got called in for the meeting, I wouldn't have gotten my 4 weeks.